Welcome, Fred Carter. Thanks so much for joining us today for ICTC's National Cyber Day 2022. We're going to get started with a quick introduction. Remember, it's a cyber sprint, so you got to be fast. You get 30 seconds. Tell us who you are and what your organization does. Go.
Okay, well, I'm a policy and technology advisor with the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, or IPC. We are an independent regulator, and we oversee the entire public sector and Ontario's access and privacy laws. So we make sure that you have a right to access your personal information from public institutions. These laws set the rules to ensure that your personal information is managed by municipal governments, provincial ministries, police services, healthcare institutions, child and family service providers, universities, colleges, schools, and school boards. All that information has to be managed privately and securely. Go to our website to learn more.
Excellent. Okay, so on that note, if a parent has questions about the information that's being collected on their children by a school board, who should they contact and how?
Contact the school directly. Schools and school boards are authorized by law to collect certain information, including your personal information, to carry out their mandates. And the processing of that information, including personal information, by schools is subject to law and rules. So school boards have to appoint someone, or many people, to be responsible for doing that. And they're called privacy officers, or sometimes freedom of information coordinators. These people must respond to your request or complaints. Now, all parents and all students have a right to access their own personal information that the school board collects, and they have a right to understand how it's being used. So, for example, you could access or get a copy of your Ontario student record, or you could get an explanation about how video cameras are being used in your school or on the school buses. So you can ask informally, or you can make a formal access request, and your school must explain the process and respond to you within 30 days. Now, sometimes there's a small fee if it's a lot of work, but normally there shouldn't be. And if you're not satisfied with the school's response, you can contact us, the IPC, and you can reach us by email, telephone, come in person. There's no age limit to request information or to ask for help. IPC staff will help you with your request or complaint. We'll explain to you whether the law applies, how it applies, what's the process you're going to go through, and we'll help you refine your request if it's needed. And if we can't help you with the request, we'll work with you, and we'll work with the school's Freedom of Information coordinator to resolve the issue. And if that doesn't work, we can sometimes order the school to comply, and in rare cases may even go to court. Very few requests and complaints go that far. Most of the time, the school will show you or give you the information you want right away, and if not, they'll explain why they can't.
Excellent. And I know from personal experience, the IPC is very, very helpful and very willing, to help with any questions. Okay, so what is the difference between the Provincial Privacy Commissioner's Office and the Federal Privacy Commissioner's Office?
Well, the short answer is that in Ontario, the IPC, the provincial IPC, oversees public sector institutions. So that would include schools, hospitals, police services, municipalities, and so forth. These institutions are publicly funded by the Government of Ontario, and that's who we regulate. The Federal Privacy Office, or the OPC, oversees private sector companies such as for-profit commercial businesses. They oversee the private companies across the country, but particularly in Ontario. The longer answer is a bit more complicated. Thanks to Canada's constitutional division of powers, responsibility for protecting personal information and privacy is divided and shared between the federal and provincial or territorial governments. So as a result, there are dozens of privacy laws across Canada in every province and territory that apply to public and private sectors. A bit confusing. There's also privacy commissioners, or sometimes ombuds, in every province and territory who oversee these laws. All privacy commissioners, or ombuds, do similar work. We apply the law and regulations that govern the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information. We investigate breaches. We respond to appeals and complaints. We issue decisions, recommendations, and orders. We carry out research and public education and advocacy, promoting standards and best practices. And generally, we represent the interests of you, the individual, and we hold institutions and organizations accountable for their actions. So getting back to your question, I want to add that Ontario doesn't have a private sector privacy law. Some provinces do, and that gets a bit more complicated. But in Ontario, there's a neat division of responsibilities. So federal law, PIPEDA, which is what the OPC oversees, applies to private sector businesses in Ontario. So if you have a concern or a complaint about a business practice of a private sector company in Ontario, you would talk to the federal OPC and not the provincial IPC. I know it's very confusing, but fortunately, if you call us, the IPC or the OPC, we'll make sure you're speaking to the right organization depending on your concern or complaint.
Excellent, thank you. So do you have plans, does the OPC have plans for an outreach program? Sorry, I said OPC, didn't I? Does the IPC, I'll edit that out. Does the IPC have plans for an outreach program with schools or businesses that process personal information?
Oh, absolutely. It's an ongoing relationship. It's an ongoing dialogue with the schools and the universities as well. It happens in many different ways. We talk to them regularly, but well, there's several ways that we influence them. One is we carry out investigations and we issue reports or with recommendations or decisions of our tribunal about how they're supposed to carry out their business. So that's like close to being the law. We say this is the way it has to be. We've interpreted the law this way. If they have a breach, and it happens more frequently than you would imagine, we will come in and investigate. And there we may make recommendations about security, about how best to notify people, right? We issue a lot of voluntary guidance. We have some good guidance on our website about how to interpret and apply the law. We issue fact sheets, which are shorter, which focus on specific issues like when can you disclose personal information to law enforcement? How do you dispose of electronic media, where data is stored? When you're getting rid of it, you have to wipe it or destroy it. What should you think about when you're hiring an online educational service to come into your school and provide a service? What are the kinds of things you should be doing? When can you use video surveillance in school buses or on the premises? So these are guidance and fact sheets which help educational institutions do their business and help set a common standard. And we also have a lot of things like teacher guides and lesson plans that we encourage teachers to use in their classrooms to help students understand what their rights are and why privacy and access to information is important. And we have a lot of that on our website. We do a lot of other things as well. There's a lot of early consultation with us. If a school or an educational institution is thinking about doing something, they'll come to us sometimes in advance and we'll have a discussion about what's good and bad and what maybe they should do. We'll make some suggestions to help shape their program before they launch it. That's a good summary, I think, of how we help them.
Awesome. And I know a lot of the guides for teachers and curriculum for classrooms will be included in CyberDay. So the teachers, so we'll get a lot of your information out there. Okay, so our wrap-up question, which everybody is getting because we want to hear everybody's perspective. What do you think is the number one thing young people need to know about cyber safety?
Number one, boy,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give it 3 and you choose one because I think they're all related, but every youth has a device, a laptop, a phone, game consoles, smart devices. You have to learn how to secure it. How can you secure it against hackers, against unauthorized access? Keep your software up to date and all your apps, for example. And a lot of times you have many, many different accounts, online accounts. You have to secure them. Use a strong password. Maybe use a password manager. Never share your passwords or reuse them. That sort of thing. Secure your accounts. and also secure your connections. So you might use Wi-Fi, you might use VPN, you might use Bluetooth, maybe you use public Wi-Fi. Your way of connecting should be secure. And you should have some understanding about what you need to do to make sure it is secure. Protect your device, protect your accounts, and protect your connections. And they're all kind of related. So I know that's more than one, but I hope you can work with that.
That's awesome because it ties in with some of the challenges we have. So anybody who's watching, go check out the challenges. One of them is exactly that: secure your connection. How do you go in and, you know, improve the safety of your router? How do you secure your accounts, and how do you secure your devices? So that's a perfect segue. Well done, friends. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Deborah. It was a pleasure to be here. Good luck.
Thanks.